What's going on? This is Ryan with Automatic Comics, and up next, we have got pretty interesting little update with the CGC scam situation. Also, thought I would cover a few other interesting things I saw related to CGC recently. Let's check this out. All right, so before we get started, please remember to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. So I had someone reach out to me on Instagram and they gave me a pretty interesting update from CGC that they got related to the whole scam reholdering situation. And this is because they had purchased one of these books. They had purchased it on eBay, they said, and they had sent it into CGC, I think back in like January, pretty early on when CGC had announced that yes, this was going on. They had put out that article and they had made the list of books, all that kind of thing. So he hadn't been getting anything back from them with respect to a payout on the book. They had confirmed that it was one that his book was one of the books that had been swapped out, but he hadn't gotten any type of payment or anything like that. And that just changed. So that is one of the big changes going on right now, is that if you have been waiting to send your book in because you were worried that you're just going to send it in and it's going to sit there forever or whatever's going on with it, and you weren't going to get any type of payment, that now appears to be changing. There are people that are getting offers from CGC now for the books that they've sent in. So I've got the text for what they sent him, and it says, we are reaching out to provide you with an update on the reholder review that you recently submitted to CGC. As you were previously informed, a senior grader reviewed your book and determined that it was impacted by the holder tampering incident, which you can read more about here. And they have a link to that article that goes over the different CGC scam stuff. To resolve this matter, we would like to compensate you for the current fair market value of the book. This would allow you to purchase the book in the same grade if you choose to do so. The current fair market value of the book is X, and he has that crossed off there. But we did talk about what it was going to be. We don't know if there's going to be any type of non-disclosure or anything like that. They are going to send him paperwork that he has to sign, and so I'm not going to say which book it is or the exact amount. We're just going to keep this a little generic just so don't get any issues there. Then it says, if you are in agreement with this, please let us know so that we can send you the DocuSign agreement to complete this process. Once it has been done, you should expect a check to arrive within the next 30 days. Thank you for your patience in this matter. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. So that is the message that he got for his book. And I'll say, based on what I valued that book at and what they gave him as the quote, like the fair market value, I'd say they were giving him 5%, maybe a little bit more than that, above what fair market value is. And not only that, if you look at this book and you look at kind of like the ranges that it can sell in, he could easily replace that book, just with a little bit of patience, replace that book and still probably have a few $100s left over at the end. And so I think that it does appear to be a pretty reasonable offer. It doesn't seem like it's just straight fair market value. It does seem like they're adding a little bit on top of it, even though they say fair market value in there, probably to account for things like taxes and that kind of thing as well. But let me know in the comments what you think. I know some people probably would like to get a lot more than fair market value. I know some people have talked about, would they just send them a replacement book instead of actually paying out? It seems like in this case, they're at least paying out. Now, I know there are some more potentially complicated situations when you get into some of the a little bit more rare books, when you're talking about things like those Mark Jewelers or 9/8 newsstands of some of these books, that kind of thing. Is CGC actually going to do a fair market value, or are they going to try to replace the book? I can't really say there. I can just say in this case, they are paying out fair market value. And I'll say it does to me appear to be above that fair market value a little bit. And if you're patient, like I said, I think you can get the book for less and you have a few $100 left over for your trouble. But yeah, they are not paying you out for whatever you paid for the book. If you bought it 3 years ago and you paid a Peak Comic Boom or whatever, they are not paying that. It appears that they are paying for a replacement at current prices. Right, so that was the first update on the CGC scam situation. The next thing, just in case you haven't been following Paul Lesko, there were a couple updates within the last couple weeks that he put out. Paul Lesko is the one that has been covering the legal side of the whole CGC scam, and you can see there were a couple updates. There was one on April 20th. This was the Terrazas case. That's the case with the people that actually worked at CGC that were like stealing books and maybe doing a little bit of swapping and making their own labels, that kind of stuff. And it says, quick update on the CGC versus Terrazas case. The parties are still talking settlement. And since they're seeking a 30-day extension, it makes me think they believe the case will be resolved in less than a month. So with that one, still seems like they are likely going to just settle outside. The other one's a little bit more interesting. The one on April 21st, because we know there were two people that were part of this. There was Zanello and Riva, and it says Riva is moving to dismiss, and that's because she alleges the complaint does not allege she specifically sold a counterfeited comic in a CGC holder. The complaint does specifically allege for Zanello, so he answered, so we'll see. So it's kind of interesting. You know? It's like one of them's trying to get out of this, you know, just saying like that they weren't specifically called out there, even though we all know like the different eBay accounts and everything. There was like the B Riva account, and you know, so the name was in the accounts and all that kind of thing. So that'll be interesting. A little bit, you know, a little bit of more of a hitch in that one to see how that all plays out. But that's really the only update we've gotten on the legal side of things. So to me, the bigger thing is that CGC is starting to pay out for those books now. And so if you have been waiting for that, then now might be the time, if you have them, to send them in, because there are still quite a few books. Now, if you go down, this is that article that they had out, and this is where they've got the list of all the books. There are a lot of books on here that still don't have crosses through them, you know, hashes through them. And so definitely something that, you know, it's that, just be careful out there. You know, it means there are definitely still books that are out there, likely in the market, being bought and sold, that are potentially fraudulent. So just keep an eye out for that. Because one thing that one of the followers of my channel that I talk to pretty regularly, Dan, he messaged me and he had pointed this book out. So just so you know, like I said, these books are still being traded out there. And so if you go over to Go Collect, we talked about this when Go Collect put this feature in. Go Collect is actively looking for these cert numbers, these problematic cert numbers. So if you go to Amazing Spider-Man 300, you go down to recent sales. There was a sale on April 9th, and it's got this big red exclamation point next to it. And the reason is this sale was identified as one involved in a holder tampering incident investigated by CGC. Go Collect will not use this sale in the FMV calculations, but will maintain the record publicly as a resource to the community in service of promoting transparency within the market. So, like I said, these books are still out there. You know, lots of people probably still don't know, you know, like unless you're actively on the CGC page or you're actively, you know, had watched this stuff on Instagram or YouTube, not a lot of people are talking about it anymore. And so you may not realize it at all, but they are still being tracked. And you can see this sale specifically on Go Collect where one of these did happen. And so definitely those books are still out there. All right. So that's it with the CGC kind of like scam update stuff. Now let's move on to the next thing. This was a story that someone sent to me as well that CGC had put out. And I just thought that this was interesting. I'm not like trying to say like, I know people will call me like a CGC shill or whatever, but I thought that this was an interesting push by CGC. Kind of the way I see it is to kind of like humanize the company, because it's very easy to attack a faceless company. But if you start just letting people know, showing people what's going on behind the scenes, that there are actually people there, all that kind of stuff, like maybe it will soften the attacks a little bit. But if you go into the comments, you'll see that that's not necessarily true for everybody. There's a lot of people that still, you know, post negative stuff all throughout the comments. I mean, take it for what it is. But I would recommend going and checking this out. It's on Instagram. You know, it's obviously it's staged and, you know, it's scripted and all that kind of thing. But still, like it gives you a view behind the scenes at CGC, kind of like what their grading area looks like. Because I think a lot of people probably think that it's like this this clean room, that people are wearing like all kinds of like protective gear and everything. But it's just like it's desks, and people have, like a stack of books on the desk, and they just kind of review one. And it looks like they probably move it to the other side of the desk. Like that's basically how that review process seems to work. But I thought there were some interesting things in this one, so I definitely recommend going and checking that out. I thought one of the more interesting comments that she made in this video was about the visual appeal of the book and how that can actually impact the grade. And I know that's probably I think a lot of people probably wouldn't like that comment, because you'd think it's like the flaw is the flaw. And but she did make a comment that the visual of the appeal can have an impact on the book, like where that flaw is on the cover, that kind of thing. So I just thought that was a pretty interesting comment. But yeah, I recommend going and checking that out. Make your own decisions on that one. The next one that I wanted to comment on was this. I haven't paid attention to onsite grading, but I was expecting like onsite grading to basically be the same fees as regular grading. But it looks like CGC is going to be at HeroesCon, and they gave their like prices for onsite grading. Onsite grading is quite a bit more expensive than paying for grading if you send the books in. So just something to consider. If you are looking to do onsite grading, you are definitely paying for the fact that you're going to get that quick turnaround time on that book. Like if we look at the grading fees for a modern book, it's $25. Here, $40. Now, granted, you're paying for the fast track, 25 plus 15, you're basically paying for the fast track. The vintage, it's $40. Here it's $60. Again, with vintage fast track, it would be $55. So you're kind of paying for fast track again. High value, $85. This one was a pretty big jump, up to $110. You're paying another $25. You're paying about 30% more to have the book graded there on site. So just, again, something to think about. And then the big one, 5% fair market value for walkthrough versus 4%. Now, I don't know if they apply, like if you're a dealer or if you have one of their tiers that you're a member of CGC, if they give you the discount there as well. I don't know. Didn't say anything about that here in the description and the post. But just something to think about. If you are wanting to do that on-site grading, it definitely costs more than if you're mailing them to CGC. Now it is going to be safer. You're not going to have to go through the mail. You're not going to have to pay for shipping. So you save a little bit there. So if you're just doing one book or two books, you weren't planning on sending in a bunch, maybe it's a wash. But if you were planning on submitting a ton of books, like a big pile of them, it might be cheaper for you. Actually, not might be. It will be cheaper for you to just mail them to CGC instead. So just something to think about there with those prices. All right, now the last thing. This is just something I thought was pretty cool. Drew Como Comics, he had messaged that he had gotten an email about this. I didn't get this email. But still something interesting. CGC is now grading RPG player guides. So if you are a fan of Dungeons and Dragons, that kind of stuff, you can get those graded now. Now the little hitch in this is that it actually appears like you can only get sealed versions graded. So if it's been opened up and read and all of that, at least temporarily, it seems like you're out of luck. Now, I don't know exactly why they're doing that. If maybe they don't have page counts for all these different books. And so just if you're only going to grade sealed ones, it takes that out of the equation. That could be why. The other interesting thing is they aren't just grading the book. And you can see they aren't grading page quality. They're grading the seal. So look here, because they obviously, if it's sealed, they can't open it up. They can't check the page quality, but you've got the grade, and then they've got the actual grade for the seal, and then they've got the type of seal that's on the book. So just something that's a little bit different with these. We haven't really seen that before. You see the grading of the seal with things like sealed video games or with VHS, like sealed VHS tapes, but haven't seen that with books before. So I just thought that was interesting. Something that, if you are big into these, maybe now is the time to get them graded. But again, it does appear that you can only get them graded if they are sealed, at least for right now. So that's everything. That's all the updates. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, got some useful information out of it. Like I said, if you have been waiting to send in your books because you wanted, maybe you wanted to get paid out a little bit more quickly, you didn't want them just sitting there, then now might be the time to do it, because it does appear that they are starting to go through that evaluation process and actually pay out for the books. And like I said, some interesting things on their Instagram page if you want to go check those out. So if you enjoyed this video, if you'd like to see more content like this, I've got more videos over here. I've got the subscription button right here, and I will see you in the next video.